Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Radiant Achiever Show. I am Christine Howard, and today I'm excited to bring my guest, Jody Maley, on for this deep conversation on the callings that she is pursuing. So, a little bit about Jody. As an entrepreneur and small business owner for over 24 years, Jody loves giving back to her community by working in her local legal aid office, running her home business coaching program, and doing various dog sports with her German Shepherd. Living in the middle of British Columbia, Canada, she has proven many times over that you can own a small business from any location, whether you're doing home parties or online services, have family time, and balance all the other things that you love to do while earning a consistent monthly income. Her strategies help you to have it all. As a past radio show host and now the host of an online summit series, Jody brings on wonderful panel experts. I have been blessed to be one of those in the past. And I look forward to diving into the conversation with her today. Please join me in welcoming Jody to the show. Well, today I'm excited to have a dear soul here, Jody Maley. Jody, welcome to the Radiant Achiever Show.
Thank you. I remember when you were a guest on my summit, so this is awesome.
I know. I love when we can, reverse the roles, definitely. So glad you're here, and I'm super excited for our conversation today. And I think we should just dive in if you're ready for that.
Yep, I sure am.
All right, perfect. So I always love starting with sharing what calling are you pursuing, and why is this calling important to you in this lifetime?
Right. So I got my calling. I've had two callings. I've been a person who, happily enough, I've actually had two separate circumstances where I had two callings in my life. So the first, I was 16 and young, didn't really know what was happening. It was actually in church. And the pastor of our church at the time, he closed his book or whatever and said, "We're not having a sermon today. We're having all the youth come up and we're just going to pray over them." And so everyone's like, okay, this is odd and awkward or whatever, but we all went with it. And so I was 16 at the time. And I just remember going up front, and I felt warm. I closed my eyes. I had lots of people coming up behind me, touching me and stuff. At the time, my dad was the principal of their Christian school. So a lot of people, were very supportive and knowing who I was. And literally, it felt like about 5 minutes. But apparently, I was standing there for 4 hours. I was like one of the last kids standing up front. And it was literally a calling. So if that's what you want to call it. But I saw myself on stage speaking in front of thousands of women. Wow. And literally, these light bulbs would go up over their heads. So I just remember that it was me speaking in front of thousands of women with these light bulbs going on. And over the years, that's always been kind of, well, now what's my message and this and that. So, I mean, at 16, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
But I knew that was a touch of God, obviously, in my life and what I was meant to do. But in my 20s and kids and spouses, and I went through a divorce. I know that you had a similar circumstance. And then in my 30s, I kind of kept going back to, well, what, I don't feel like that vision was still there, because it's in the heart, right? When it comes.
Right.
So I've always been the type of person where I've said, God doesn't kind of tell you in a nice, sweet, gentle way. It's like I just get hit over the head. And so I was actually so this was my second calling, I'd always been trying to wonder what that voice was. Like, what was I really good at? How could I help assist those women? What was the story? Because that was always the question. What am I telling these women to give them those light bulb moments. And so my second calling, I was actually at I wouldn't even say it was a retreat. When I was pregnant with child number 6, I was on bed rest for quite a bit. So
Wow.
I had a stillborn birth a few years ago with my ex-husband, and this is with my new spouse. And I was on bed rest. And at that time, I was in a direct sales business and really, really high up. I was senior regional vice president.
Wow.
And with this bed rest, I couldn't do things traditionally. So I couldn't host my meetings. I couldn't host it was like I was selling candles at the time. So I couldn't host my events and this and that. Because I was literally on bed rest about 8 weeks before he was born and about another 6 weeks after.
Wow.
So take that into consideration. That's 3 months, right? And in those type of businesses, you have to keep going. Otherwise, you lose your team. And so I didn't really feel like during the year, because I had a coach assigned to me. So she would phone me and ask me whatever. And I kept getting this nice piece of jewelry every 4 months in the mail, like really nice stuff from the home office. And I didn't know that year was a big contest of increasing your business by 20%. So I got invited at the end of the year. I'd been one of the top income earners. So they had invited me to this big fancy soiree in Toronto. And I thought, I felt I didn't deserve it.
Oh, wow.
Because I was traditionally not doing what everyone else was doing. I wasn't hosting monthly meetings. I wasn't doing whatever. I had just become a personality dimensions coach, which is now what I am fully doing. And I felt like I didn't deserve to be there, because I wasn't being traditional with what everyone else was doing. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take these 5 days, because we got to be trained by the president of the company for 5 full days.
Wow.
In this fancy resort. And I mean, it was like limos and everything. It was so cool. And I just felt this undeservability. And so when we got there, I thought, I'm just going to immerse myself into training and getting to know these other women. It's January was when it was back again. So I'm like, it's the start of a new year. I'm big on resets, right? And so we went in there, and I thought, whoever won this top award, I'm going to be sitting right beside her. I'm going to be every meal with her. I'm going to be picking her brain. I'm going to find out, how she increased her business by 20%. And so at the gala evening, which was the next night, and they were announcing who the top 5 people were, and they increased their business by 25%. And this was business and leadership. Okay. So this is what it was for. So you had to increase your sales and your team sales by 20%. And so there was a couple, 25%, 30%. And there was a lady who increased her business by like 52%. And then I just remember the president of the company saying, and this lady has increased her business by like 148%, like literally crazy above everyone else. And I'm like, I had my paper in front of me. I'm like, oh my God, who is this rock star? Like, I'm like waiting for the name. So of course, no, it was me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Jody.
Thought, what the heck? I was so flabbergasted. Like, I had no idea of what I had done, right? Because I wasn't being traditional that year. And so when I went up on stage and stuff, and I had even second guessed even going on the trip, because I didn't think I was deserving. But my husband, I guess, phoned him, or they knew something, because he's like, no, you go. Because at this time, the baby that I was pregnant with was now almost 8 months. So I'm like, okay, do I leave him? Do I leave my family? Do I go on this trip? And blah, blah, blah. And my husband's like, no, you need to go. And of course, he had his big thing of roses ready for me when I came back from it. But I remember the president of the company grabbing my hand and saying, you didn't win this trip, because she heard the negative Nellies of why I shouldn't be there, right? Because I had a lot of flack from my upline that I wasn't hosting monthly meetings. I wasn't doing I wasn't doing the things that all the other leaders were doing, because I couldn't. Right. And so I just remember grabbing my hand, looking me in the eye, and saying, you didn't win this trip, you earned it. And so I sat down in my little black book that I had brought with me. That was the one thing that I wrote down, because she said, what do you all as leaders really want out of your futures. It doesn't even have to be with this company or this or that. Like, where do you see yourself? And I had wrote down that I believe every woman deserves what she's entitled to. And I really wanted to help women in self-development to really own their own presence. And so that was what I call my second calling, because I feel like at that moment, there's so many women that we win these top accolades and we can't pat ourselves on the back.
Yes.
We don't believe it.
Don't believe it, as in your case. Wow. Wow. Yeah. That is, I had not heard this part of your story. How amazing. And so on point with what so many women experience. And I can imagine how that had such a profound impact on you that you wanted to carry your learning forward to help other women.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many women who feel icky in their sales and this and that. And so that was the other thing too, that I took the time in the last several years, definitely, of, you know, what did I enjoy the most when I was in leadership? What did, you know, my girls learn the most from me? And it really did come down to self-confidence, speaking your ideal client's language, and to do it in a way that people are drawn to you.
Right.
You're just speaking their language. So that's
beautiful. Wow. Wow. So part of my list of questions here is really, how did you come to connect with that calling? Some people see it, some people feel it, some people hear it. You know, there's always a series of circumstances usually that transpire. So it sounds like then, out of your personal experience of not believing it, of like growing your business non-traditionally, winning this top award, not believing it, that was kind of that awakening moment for you that I want to help other women to step into, own who they are, own their power. And out of that situation for yourself was what led you into the coaching that you do today. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think when I pinpoint in the year, so this is now what I teach people. Well, what did I do in that year? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, you know, that child now is 18 and just
okay. Oh yeah, I saw pictures. Yes. Awesome.
That's right. Happy dance. And over in that year, I had just become a personality dimensions coach. And so I thought, you know what, that was one thing that I used. So I actually had, because we didn't have Zoom calls like this, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have whatever. I literally had my telephone, my list of leaders, because I had I had about 180 leaders on my downline at the time.
Okay. Wow.
And I just thought, you know, every day I'm just going to work my business, where 2 calls were to current hostesses. So people that, you know, because I would offer still to do the show. So even though I was on bed rest, so I couldn't lift anything, but I asked my doctor, like, can I get in a vehicle, show up at that place, sit down and have people do everything for me? She goes, yes. So for a couple of weeks, I did that. And then it was great training for the girls who went with me, right? Because they got my leadership training. And then, so I did 2 of those calls a day. And then I did 2 for my past customers. And then I would just pick people from my team and do 2 calls with them.
Wow.
And then that's what I focused on, is I had them all do the quiz.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what your personality is and how you think and operate and stuff. And so I didn't realize, and I did this every day for about 6 months.
Wow.
Saturdays and Sundays.
Great commitment there.
I had nothing else to do, right?
I love it. I love it.
And so I really instilled in myself. And then that's how I grew that business.
Wow.
From my personal sales were off the charts that year, and my team sales went crazy because I was taking the time to reach out. Like, I would just rotate those girls around. Of course, new people would come in and I would do training with them on the phone. And it was just more of, it was more of that personal, like really.
Exactly. The relationship. Yes. And you dialed it in. So the personality dimensions, I think, is that what you call it's called? How did you get introduced to that quiz and that teaching?
Yeah, so my sister-in-law, she was taking the course herself, or she had done a few and things, and she's like, you're really great at your leadership skills with your team and this and that. And she goes, I think you should become an instructor. So in my personality, I never even went to a workshop or did anything. I just signed up straight away to be an instructor.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. And so this was before bed rest. So I was about 3 or 4 months pregnant with the number 6 when I went and did my training, which was intensive, by the way. It was like a 10-day full on. It cost me several $1,000s, but I thought, you know what? No, I want to invest in this and that. And so I was the only one there taking the training who never even done the assessment before. And here's the funny thing is that I cheated on my own assessment.
How and why?
Yeah, how and why. So with the personality dimensions, there's 4 different colors that we're broken into. So there's your gold, your green, your blue, and your orange. And a lot of people who were taking this particular course were a lot of blue personality, very feelings. They were a lot of people who they weren't an entrepreneur like me. They were kind of in the social, I think like a social worker. Okay. So there were a lot of social workers who were in my set. So there was about 40 of us taking the training at the same time. And they were making kind of fun of one color group, the oranges. They're not making fun of them, but they're like, oh, if you're an orange, don't tell them when it's coffee time that they can leave the room. Otherwise they'll go to Tim Hortons and never come back and stuff. Just those kind of comments, right? Okay. And so I never even taken my assessments. So they were having me take my assessment, and I'm hearing a little bit of this. And I'm a pretty smart cookie. And my orange was actually coming out a little bit ahead of my blue. And so I made the numbers on my sheet so that I fit in with the group.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting? And so on day 3 of us all doing our training together, I'm like, I have to confess, I actually cheated on my assessment, and I made my one color come out a little bit ahead of my other color. And everyone just laughed. They're like, what a true orange. Do you even cheat on your own test?
I love it. I love it. And so that tool became a cornerstone and really how you grew your business.
Has become a cornerstone of everything. Since then, I've been in other direct sales companies. I've been in brick and mortar companies. So I've worked in a jewelry store. I've worked in a furniture store. And I use that assessment for everything to do with sales, because you can quickly gain by someone's conversation which personality they are. And then in my head, I switch gears to listening to them. Speaking their language.
Love that.
If they're a certain personality, like the green personality who are analyzers, I give them a little bit of stuff and let them think about it and come back the next day, which of course the head ups with a bunch of companies don't like that because they leave the store. I'm like, they'll be back. They just have to think about it. They seriously have to take a day to think about it. Right.
Wow. So it sounds like you really mastered how that tool works, and then how that helps you to understand who you're in conversation with, and you continue to use that today. So that's awesome. So I love how all of that unfolded for you from like really when you were 16. It sounds like you had some experiences and visions, and you knew at some point you'd be in front of lots of people, and it came to be when you won the award. And I'm sure you've been on other stages in your lifetime beyond just that one. So so let's talk a little bit about the obstacles that you faced, and once you said yes to this second calling, right, of really bringing the training, the sales training to women, and helping. What were some of those obstacles for you?
So the first obstacle has been my health. From the time I was 16 as well. And somebody else had told me that the reason I even had that calling at 16 is that I have daily chronic migraine. So I have a huge health issue. And so that was probably the first obstacle.
Wow.
Was the company that I was with, I was making great, great money with. I became allergic to the products. It was
Oh
candles,
no.
and a lot of the
Oh,
candle smells were stimulating a migraine. So that was the first obstacle, was okay. And again, I think it's just God's way of
yeah.
not very subtle with me. It's got to be a right over the head. You're not listening, whatever. And so at the time, it was really, I have to give this up because,
Ah,
even going and doing 2 or 3 shows that I was supposed to do mandatory every month as a leader was giving me a 3 or 4 day migraine.
oh my goodness,
So,
Jody.
right. And so
Not good.
that was obstacle number 1, is always listen to what your
Hmm.
body and God is trying, or your spirit, or however, I'm more spiritual
Mm-hmm.
now. And to be intuitive to your body is telling you stuff for a reason. So that was obstacle number 1. And then obstacle number 2, which was, then we had life stuff.
Mm.
So once I decided to go forward with this, and I think when you're meant for greatness, your obstacles become a little bit more whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I had already been kind of in a divorce, and then there was continued on custody issues.
Oh.
My new spouse and I had 2 kids together. So we have a blended family. So don't think I'm crazy having 6 kids. It's 2 kids, 2 his, 2
Okay.
mine, together. And our house burned down. So we
Oh,
literally had our house burned to the ground. So I'm here to tell people stuff means nothing.
wow. Right,
Stuff can
right.
be replaced. And so that
Wow.
was probably a good thing, because then I wasn't always tied to, you're not tied to things,
Material. Yeah.
real stuff. And then obstacle number 3, which was more recent, was one of our sons passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear
Yeah.
that. No.
So of our 6 children, so the 2 his older, one of his older
Oh,
boys had passed away.
oh.
And so definitely obstacles that, you know, and this is what I've always had with obstacles. I think that when life gives you stuff, you have 2 choices. You can either bitch and complain about them and keep the drama going, because there's a lot of people who create drama, and that drama can keep going and going and going,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that you've probably been in a similar situation with, when you have the end of a marriage and a divorce and there's children, there's always stuff. So you
Yeah.
can either complain
Yeah.
about that and keep that drama going, or choice number 2, you can learn from it so that you can serve someone else with the same
Yep.
situation. Because we are not all unique. We are all so much alike and interconnected.
Yes.
And we have our
Yes.
own uniqueness, that is for sure. But we all have these challenges in our life, right? And you can either,
So well said, Jody.
yeah.
So well said. Wow, you have had major life events, and again, like we all have things happen, but it didn't stop you. You I'm sure learned a lot of lessons from that. It shifted who you were being. Were there any inner? And I know you talked about the confidence before, right? Some inner obstacles, inner shifts that you ended up realizing and needing to make to support you really stepping into that bigger vision of how you're here to serve.
Yes. So, and I'm big about stories, right? I'm always, the more that you can
I
tell
love
a
it.
story and have people
Yeah.
relate to it. So this story is that while I was searching for how to go about making, like, I was doing workshops and stuff with personality dimensions and here and there, but it was slow going. I had, at that time we had all the 6 kids and stuff. And my husband lost his job. In our community, I'm in BC, Canada, so we really rely on the logging industry. And about 8 years ago, what hit the logging industry was a little bug called the beetle bug and totally wiped out forestry. Like
Wow.
it was really bad. So my husband decided that he wanted to go back to school. My husband's actually native, so his band paid for him to take his power engineering. And so I needed then to be the support, like the income for our
Okay.
family.
Wow.
Okay. And so I thought, well, what can I do? I mean, I was doing okay with the personality dimensions, but not enough to support our family, because for me, it was still a fun thing to do.
Okay.
You know, everybody has that, their side gig that's just fun. And so I took a job in a retail store here called the Brick. So I don't know if you have the Brick down there, probably
I have not heard of it. Mm-mm.
But up here in Canada, it's a very big furniture store, which is 100% commission. And I worked with it was male dominated for one thing. So in my little town, there was like 5 salespeople, and 4 of them were men. There were 2 part-time sales girls, but I was a full-time woman.
Ah, okay.
And it was so toxic.
Oh.
So toxic. I mean, everything was whatever, but I used my personality dimensions, and I was there to support my family. So that was my 2 big motivators. So my big motivation was I was there to support my family. So I had to treat it like it was my full-time job.
Yeah.
It was food on the table. And I had these other men like steal my sales.
No.
I mean, everything that you could imagine
happened. Oh no.
happened. And so I just remember focusing and just saying every morning before I'd go to work, like, all I have to do today is serve 3 to 4 people who they come into my store, use my sales dimensions techniques.
Yeah.
Really serve them and not focus on all the other crap going on in the store.
Yeah. Wow.
Behind me, in front of me, whatever.
Right.
And just focus on giving really, really good customer service, which I knew how to do. And that store sold about 200,000 a month in sales. There's 5 salespeople. And again, I did not
hear the story.
I did not know this, because the guy that I was working with, the assistant manager, who couldn't even open an email or whatever. So quite often I would do the assistant manager job or whatever. But I happened, after about 18 months of working there, I happened to open up whatever. And here I'm the top salesperson in Canada.
In Canada?
In
what?
Canada.
Jody.
So this company was doing, our little store was doing about 200,000 in sales.
Oh my God.
And out of 5 salespeople, I was doing about 150 of that myself.
Come on.
So
that is fantastic.
So even though it was, and the store happened to close in our area because we lived to 2 other bigger cities, and the company just didn't want to pay the lease on
okay.
whatever. So I was able to gracefully get out of it, but I needed therapy from it after. And then it was kind of after that where I just again came back to, but what did I do well?
Yeah.
I was able to take away the negativity.
Right. Right.
And center it to giving good customer service, using my personality dimensions. And in 18 months of working there, I realized that I did almost $2 million worth of sales.
That is a powerful story.
Right?
A powerful story. I'm blown away.
And it took me until about maybe a year or 2 when I started doing my summits and stuff, that story or that thinking or the shift became more clear to me, because I always thought, well, that's such a horrible experience. I mean, I was told by the bosses that I should, you're an older woman. The other 2 women here are younger, maybe you should get a better push-up bra. I mean, everything that you could imagine. In a male dominated
my gosh.
done. And so and so I thought, this is such a negative stuff. But again, my two mantras. Either you can complain about it and keep the drama going, or what did I learn from it? What did I excel at? And how can I now teach that to others?
Right. I love it. Well, and I'm so impressed by how you you were like this solid rock that said, I am consciously choosing to serve, and here's how I'm going to do it. Here's who I am going to show up as in serving my customers. And yes, I see, acknowledge, and I feel what's going on around me, but I'm not going to give that any more energy than I have to. And I'm going to focus really here. So what a testament to your values, to the power of your intentions, and who you were choosing to be versus playing victim to your circumstances. So,
absolutely.
Wow.
Yep.
I am so blown away and impressed. And how funny, once again, or that you've had multiple situations where you did not know how the big impact that you were making until somebody else told you
like
how amazing you are.
I had no clue. So from both of those experiences, like I had no clue that I was the top leadership person in Canada.
Wow.
And then on the second one, I had no clue that I was like one of the top salespeople. And they would send people from head office would come to our town and whatever, and they would be trying to tell me how to sell. Because they saw that I was a good salesperson, right? And it's like, who is this, whatever. So we quite often would get trainers coming through. And even my boss was like, I don't know why these guys are showing up, blah, blah, blah. But he did, but didn't tell me.
Oh, they probably wanted to learn from you.
Yeah. So, or make me better to position me into management in different cities, what ended up happening, but I refused. I'm like, no, I'm staying where I'm staying. And this is now my vision is really to go into coaching. But and it was interesting, even their sales styles, because they were like, why did you let that person leave the store? Why did you do that? Like, that's not in our handbook of selling. And I'm like, well, it might not be your handbook of selling, but I have to be authentic to who I am. Like,
I love that.
Lie to the customer. Like that was always my biggest no in any type of business.
Right.
I never would lie to a customer or make our products seem better than what they were.
Okay.
Ever.
Love the integrity there. That's amazing. So with all of that, and I love how you said like it took a while for you to really feel the shift that occurred in you. So who, as a result of all of that, like, how have you shifted? Who's Jody today as you, stand in your power?
So a few years ago when I met you, I had actually taken a job locally that I wanted to give back to my community, because that was the first thing. I felt like I really needed to find me more, to get that calling more, to get a little bit more clear. I hired a coach. And then B, I took a job where I felt like I could provide value locally. So that's where I started with legal aid. And it's just a couple of days a week, but it got me out of the house. It got me out of trapped feelings or thinking that a lot of entrepreneurs get when we wear that cap, or we wear every cap in our business. And then I took a course on summits, which you were part of my one summit. And I thought, that's who I want heart-centered entrepreneur women to be on these summits. So I did 2 of them and had over 45 amazing speakers, such as yourself. It was great. It was a great learning curve. And then at the end of the summits is like, then you have to have what your offer is. Right?
Yes.
So I'm doing the interviews, people get to know me, but now how can you segue that into what your genius is? And of course, I knew I wanted around personality dimensions and sales and leadership, self-development. Those were the 3 key things that I really wanted to focus on. And literally on my last summit, as the summit was starting, pandemic hit. So I wanted in person. So I wanted to be doing workshops in person and travel and this and that. That's what I wanted to do. And then when the pandemic hit, I thought, now what do I do? And I'm not a tech person. Okay. You and I have I know techie stuff. I'm nerdy enough to do techie stuff. So I know we've had these conversations before where both of us are like, oh, and you can do this. because down the road, I still want my own app.
I love it. I love it.
But what I needed to shift to was, how now can I do this online? And again, God leaves you, or your higher power leads you, gives you tidbits on the direction that you should flow, right?
Yes.
And so now this has encompassed into more online training. So for people today, what's going to be available is you can take a quiz. That's my give to everyone. Take a quiz to kind of figure out a little bit of what your personality sales assessment is. So you can take
fantastic
that. And then the quiz will lead you. So I'm just going to be transparent.
Yes. Yeah.
The quiz will lead
behind the scenes of how it works.
That's right. And this is how it all works for people. And this is what I want to train people on. So you take the quiz, and the quiz will lead you to what your sales personality is, and will lead you to a $97 assessment with me, where you'll get 2 full days to work with me to figure out just to get to know your personality sales style a little bit. And out of that will lead you down to work with me for 6 weeks, which is a full leadership course, because I really believe that that's where my heart is.
Oh, beautiful.
Is having leaders know when they're hiring, because I think we've all been there. I mean, I've been there, where I've hired a few people and I'm like, why didn't this work? What was it that didn't work? And again, I hired those people, but I didn't have them do the assessment. Now I've hired people. So I have a couple people on my own team, and they've done the assessment, and I'm like, oh, I put you in the wrong spot.
Oh, wow.
That's where your brilliance is. So that's my biggest thing is when you're now hiring or you're getting into leadership and leadership development, you should know where your brilliance is and wear that cap with confidence, and then hire the 3 other quadrants. So
smart.
So there's 4 quadrants of every business. Okay.
Yes.
People want to make quick notes of this. There's 4 quadrants. There's number 1 is sales. Number 2 is marketing. Number 3 is traffic. And number 4 is behind the scenes, or the tech stuff. Okay. So every successful entrepreneur, every business, you need those 4 quadrants. And I find that a lot of people will hire sales and marketing and kind of boom them together, but they're different. Yes. They're so different.
Yes. I appreciate you saying that, because I think that's been a newer realization for me. Yeah, I love it. I love your vision. I love the theme that I keep coming back to and hearing you speak in every one of your stories is that authenticity, and that you are going to be authentic to you. You're going to talk to people in your way. You're going to deliver your own your genius. And here's the book, and I will apply what makes sense for me, but I'm going to own who I am. And that is powerful as a leader. That is going to have our biggest impact is when we are being authentic to ourselves. So I love that. So let's talk about this.
And I think too,
go ahead.
Just to kind of finish that, I think that kind of came from my first calling, where I'd see all those women with their light bulb moments. And for me, that's now where my heart is so much of really own your brilliance, really, really own it. And then your authentic sales style, your authentic leadership skills, they will emerge when you know who you really are, because we are so preconditioned from a younger mindset, right? Totally. And that preconditioning can sometimes lead us down to, I don't know how many people have maybe chosen to be an accountant because they had parents who were very, 2 type of personalities, and then they find out I'm not an accountant.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. And I love that you really resonated and you continue to use that tool. And I know there's a plethora of other tools out there. So find something that resonates with you and stick with it. So let's talk about it. Like, I love talking about inner powers, right? Where there's so many ways to frame it. We all have inner powers that we utilize. What is one inner power that you are, that has been instrumental in your journey of really stepping into your brilliance, your leadership, and bringing your calling to life? My one superpower, right? I think
think it would be the fact that people can open up to me and be so authentic themselves around. And I mean, I have had complete strangers. I've had complete strangers, like, for example, like you're waiting in a line and this, and again, I'm all about stories, right? So this one day, and I was really I kind of find that I'm a little late for everything.
Okay.
So I thought, you know what? I need to change this scenario. I need to change my inner game with being late and not on time for things. So I started incorporating into my thinking, I have all the time in the world.
Love
and
that.
I was really focusing on that. So this one day at the grocery store, and you know those rushing Nellies who have to be everywhere and their time is more important than yours. And this lady was behind me and huffing and puffing. And I had a big, I mean, we have 6 kids. I had a big cart. And so I thought, you know what? I have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And I graciously let her go ahead of me. I'm like, you know, don't worry about it. I have all the time in the world. Go ahead of me, blah, blah, blah. And she was so flabbergasted that I did that. And she said, you know what? I feel really compelled. I own this place, blah, blah, blah. I want to give you a free pedicure. So she gives me this card, puts on the back of it, free pedicure, hands it to me, and she was off in a rush. And so I thought, oh, well, there you go. I got rewarded for, you know, allowing the time thing not to get me all the time, right? And to be on time for things or whatever. And so I went and saw her later to, you know, cap in on it. Because let's face it, and what I do, or having a zillion children, you don't always get to pamper yourself.
Right.
So I went to it and stuff. And she was like, oh, you know, like, I didn't mean to be rude and blah, blah, blah. And she kind of said, why, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But it was just kind of that thing where I just don't know why people get that authentic. They will spill their guts to me.
Wow. I know why, Jody. It's because you are authentic, and like attracts like. Like you create such a space of just owning who you are and being in the energy and loving it and you know, again, owning it. And you are authentic in your conversations, in your feelings. And so when you do that, then that gives people, without them knowing it, I believe it gives them permission to show up the same way.
Absolutely.
I don't know, that's my take on it.
That is definitely
I love it.
Superpower.
Oh, I love it. And I so can see that about you for sure. So what does being a radiant achiever mean to you? As we are on the Radiant Achiever show, I love asking that question.
Right. And I've talked about it, like opening up your brilliance, being true to who you are, being your authentic self, whether it's in leadership, sales, even with your children, because I think with our children, they're watching you. They watch everything you do. They're listening to you. And now I'm a grandma. So it's really interesting now as being a radiant achiever is now even seeing how my daughter is bringing up this little human. Like he's 8 months old now, and she's like, and we're going to have story time because stories are important. And she's like,
where did she hear that from?
Exactly. And so I love the fact that part of being a radiant achiever is raising, you know, strong, powerful women. We had 4 boys,
love it.
2 girls. And my husband always says, you didn't have girls, you had clones. And I'm like, well, I think I'm pretty amazing, so that's okay.
Right? This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Well, and what comes up for me is that ripple effect, right? So when we own our brilliance, we step into the confidence, and we are being who we are authentically, bringing to life those things that are calling to us, then we are creating that ripple of whether it's consciously or unconsciously, helping to train, influence in a positive way the other generations. So, or people that are even in our generation. Yeah, that's a powerful thing. So I love it. I love hearing more of your stories than I ever have before, and really seeing how you got to where you are today. And I so get, and I know I'm gonna be laughing about this throughout the day as I think about it, your sales success that you weren't even aware of. Like, Wow, that's something that's going to stick with me for sure. And truly it is a genius for you that I know a lot of other people have benefited from, are going to continue to benefit from in the work that you bring forward. So talking about benefiting people, I'd love to have some Jody wisdom. If, speaking to the women that are on the fence, they have something that's calling to them, but they haven't stepped into it. They're hesitant, they're fearful, they're maybe overwhelmed with everything going on in their life. What advice or suggestions would you have for them to help them move forward?
Yeah, so my advice would be to, I love to do this where I like just take the timer for 10 minutes and just write out everything. Just do a whole, what it is you want to do, who you want to serve, and how what you are doing, what's the words I'm looking for, and how that can help transform for that other person. So when people are stuck, it's really kind of finding your brilliance and where you're really great at, and just do a 10-minute, doesn't even have to make sense, but a lot of times when I'm stuck myself, that's what I do. I just do set the timer for 10 minutes and just free write, like just
love it.
Who am I? What's my purpose? Who do I want to serve? And just kind of let it all kind of come out. And actually, this was a training that our mutual friend, Marsh Engel.
Oh, okay. Yes. Love Marsh. Yes.
Years ago.
Okay.
And I still do it to this day because I really feel that your brilliance, your feminine energy, sitting quietly and just letting it all go is really the keys to your inner brilliance, because you're not trying to perform for anybody. You're not, I don't know.
You're not even thinking it. You're letting it come up and out. Right. I love that.
So
bubbling
that
out
would be my best advice, is to, and do that a couple times a month. Like I know Marsh had this when I did her first course, when she was even finding what amazing women, and where she was going with that back in the day, because I met her probably 12, 13 years ago maybe.
Okay.
And so I was one of her first guinea pigs. So it was really, really
I love it. I love it. That is powerful. And it is a tool that I absolutely have used, continue to use. I'm a big journaler, and letting things come through me versus me thinking about it, giving those that creative space to, or the space to those creative ideas to come out, and your essence will bubble up. So love it. Short chunks of time, powerful, especially as whether women that are moms, spouses, have, all kinds, we have varied interests. And again, I love your bio, because there's not just the 6 kids, but everything else that you do is fantastic. And so in wrapping up, Jody, I would love for you to share with our viewers, what is the best way for them to connect with you if they want to learn more about you and what you do, or even to claim your free gift?
So pretty simple site, jodymaley.com. And the link will be up there. As we're speaking, it's actually on its final stages. I'm putting together it today, but I know that this interview is going to be a couple of weeks down the road.
Yes. So
I'll be there on jodymaley.com. You'll see the quiz.
Perfect.
So just click down to the quiz, and you can take the quiz or the assessment, and that's the best way.
I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that myself. So fantastic. Jody, this was so much fun. I so enjoyed your stories, your wisdom, the nuggets, and how you are continuing to live your genius in a very authentic way.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. So everybody watching or listening in, thank you for being here today for this episode that Jody and I shared on the Radiant Achiever Show. And I look forward to, I hope you got something great out of it. I know I personally have several new nuggets, and look forward to connecting with you on the show again real soon. Bye for now.
Bye.